Welcome to the Liberty Watchdog Network, a highly enlightening show that discusses America's founding principles and how they still apply today. Learn what our government was intended to be, how it has gotten out of control, and what you can do about it. For the Constitution and God's law is in crisis. And if you're a concerned American about the direction of this country, then you are not alone and must tune in every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can't defend what you don't know. Either you learn it or lose it. Please be sober-minded that what we are about to share will be shocking to you. I am your son of the American Revolution host and LibertyWatchdog.com founder, Nate Green. So let's explore our nation's principles of liberty. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is August 30th, 2017. Today's topic of the day is, what was the founders' meaning of the freedom of the press, and who are the Mongols of media? Remember, last week we shared that the source of slavery in America was the Crown of England, and that the Founding Fathers nearly eradicated slavery by the time of 1820 because of laws which they passed, such as the Northwest Ordinance. You also learned that black voters also helped ratify the Constitution. In addition to that, you learned that Lincoln was pro-slavery, that the Emancipation Proclamation freed no one, and that he actually proposed what they called the Ghost Amendment to legalize it. But sadly, folks, the further society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those that speak it. So let's move on to the first segment, Liberty Watchdog News. News that you will not hear from what we call the Mongols of media. Because remember, only 7 major corporations control everything you see, hear, and touch. California kindergarten students receive a lesson on sex change. Parents were shocked and outraged when they discovered that their 5-year-old children had received a lesson on sex change. The teachers said that it was appropriate because one of the classmates is transitioning from a boy to a girl. That's right, at 5 years old. 2 parents were afraid to be identified for fear of retaliation, said that the children were confused and upset by the experience when they came home. One child was sent to the principal's office for calling the transitional child by his male name. Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what happens when a society calls good evil and evil good. Parents, this is a wake-up call. You need to be involved with the curriculum of your children. President Trump pardoned controversial Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio was pardoned by President Trump on his conviction for criminal contempt after he defied a court order and refused to cease traffic stops of vehicles suspected of carrying illegal immigrants. Arpaio became controversial for constructing outdoor tent cities for prisoners, reviving chain gangs, serving bad food, and making the inmates wear prison-striped clothes and pink underwear to humiliate them. The intent of all that was to discourage crime and to stop illegal immigrants from entering his county. He says he was prosecuted by Obama holdovers because he conducted an investigation into Obama's birth certificate and declared it was a fake. In fact, you need to go online and YouTube Joe Arpaio posse on Obama's birth certificate. And what you'll learn, folks, is an amazing study that his posse went to Hawaii for, I believe, 6 months and proved that his birth certificate was fraudulent. So, President Trump, since you're able to pardon Sheriff Joe, why not do the right thing and pardon the gentlemen that are still in prison in what happened at Malheur National Forest in Oregon, when Lavoy Finicum was assassinated by government agents, and the Bundy family, what they went through in their backyard in Nevada when they stood up for their land rights against snipers with the Bureau of Land Management. Please do the right thing and pardon these men. Trump's economic advisor Gary Cohn described Antifa as citizens standing for freedom. GEG said that President Trump's National Economic Council director, Gary Cohn, said in a recent interview that members of Antifa are just concerned citizens standing up for equality and freedom. He criticized Trump for blaming both sides for violence in the streets and said the administration must do better to condemn pro-white groups. And listen, folks, if you go online and watch and see what Trump had to say when he rebuked what happened, there was nothing wrong with what he said at all. But you have to ask yourself, why is another leftist mole showing itself in the Trump administration? And it makes you wonder why Trump appointed these people, and even more important, why he keeps them. Who is running the shots in the White House? So let's get back to the topic of the day. What was the founders' meaning of the freedom of the press, and who are the Mongols of media? So what did they mean when they said freedom of the press? Let's go back to the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Let me refer you to what George Tucker said in 1803. As he referred to England in 1694, he said, "No shopkeeper could buy a book to sell again, or sell any book, unless he were a licensed bookseller. By these and other restrictions, the communication of knowledge was utterly subjected to the control of those whose interest led them to promote ignorance rather than the knowledge of truth." End quote. So what was he saying? It's real simple, my friends. You were the press. You had the freedom to share whatever knowledge in whatever form or fashion of truth to the best way you could, whether it be writing or speaking it. Jefferson warned of media deception. He said in 1806, "As for what is not true, you will always find abundance in the newspapers." And yes, America, this applies to all media. Did you know that, again, only a few corporations own all the media outlets? And that's why I say to our students and you, discern everything for yourselves. Everything even on Fox News or any of these corporate-owned media spinsters. So let me share just a handful of these large conglomerates that control everything you see, whether it's on TV or in a newspaper. You hear, whether radio or TV, or touch, again, in newspapers and books, colleges, universities. And that's why what I refer to when I call the Mongols of media include Disney, National Amusements, Viacom, CBS Corporation, Time Warner, News Corp, Bertelsmann AG, Sony, General Electric, Vivendi, Hearst Corporation, and a few other foreign corporations which are hard to pronounce. We must remember that our so-called self-proclaimed experts are only employees and paid mouthpieces. So I want you to listen and learn as I share other quotes given by Jefferson as he was speaking of the abuses by a free press. He said, "I deplore the putrid state into which our newspapers have passed, and the malignity and vulgarity and the mendacious spirit of those who write for them. These ordures are rapidly depraving the public taste and lessening its relish for sound food. As vehicles of information and a curb on our functionaries, they have rendered themselves useless by forfeiting all title to belief. This has in a great degree been produced by the violence and malignity of the party spirit." Thomas Jefferson to Walter Jones, 1814. "Our printers raven on the agonies of their victims as wolves do on the blood of a lamb. said Jefferson to James Monroe in 1811. From 40 years' experience of the wretched guesswork of the newspapers of what is not done in open daylight, and of their falsehood even as to that, I rarely think them worth reading and almost never worth notice, he also said to Monroe in 1816. I agree with that statement. I mean, they are barely worth reading because you don't know what to believe, because most people don't take the time to discern and look any information up for themselves. And that's why you're here listening today, because that's what I'm calling you to do. He also said, nothing can now be believed which is seen in a newspaper. Truth itself becomes suspicious by being put into the polluted vehicle. The real extent of this state of misinformation is known only to those who are in situations to confront facts within their knowledge with the lies of the day. Now that, my friends, is an awesome statement Jefferson wrote to John Norvell in 1807. Let's read it again. Nothing can now be believed which is seen in a newspaper. Truth itself becomes suspicious by being put into the polluted vehicle. The real extent of this state of misinformation is known only to those who are in situations to confront facts within their knowledge with the lies of the day. That is awesome. He also said advertisements contain the only truths to be relied in a newspaper. Man, isn't that the truth? Why? Because they're actually trying to tell you about their services or their products, and usually there's less spin in that there is on the news of the day. Sad. He also said that the press is impotent when it abandons itself to falsehood. So do you understand, just as Proverbs 10:13 through 15 says, that on the lips of the discerning wisdom is found, but a rod is for the back of him who lacks understanding. Wise men store up knowledge, but with the mouth of the foolish, ruin is at hand. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you reading real history, written by those who lived it, or are you reading someone's revisionist opinion of it? And that's what we're trying to point out to you, is that what you think is reality versus reality are two different things. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were 5 years old and I was your parent and I gave you a piece of chopped liver and I said, that is filet mignon, you will believe that that is filet mignon till one day you get a chance to taste the real thing for yourself. My challenge to you is to join us and become a Liberty Watchdog. In closing today, I challenge you to become the press and to do your own research from several different sources so you can discern the truth, to study real American history for yourself and learn more about the source of our nation by visiting libertywatchdog.com. And be sure to join our email list to take the next Constitutional Boot Camp. Remember, you can't defend what you don't know. Either you learn it or lose it. I'm Nate Green. See you next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. May God bless you, and may God bless America.